This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Baruch Haba. We continue in Mishna Berura Yomi. We're going to read today the second Bir Halacha. The second Bir Halacha is commenting on the words of the Ramah. The Ramah said that Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid, placing Hashem before me always, is a great principle in the Torah and in the attributes of the tzaddikim. So here the Chavetz Chaim sees fit to bring what is called the Sheish Mitzvos Tmidiyos of the Sefer HaChinuch. It's interesting, the Pri Megadim cites the Sefer HaChinuch as well, and the Sefer HaChinuch brings a remez that the Sheish Mitzvos Tmidiyos, these 6 mitzvos, are alluded to in the 6 Arei Miklat. In other words, there's some kind of connection between the 6 cities of refuge and the Sheish Mitzvos Tmidiyos. Pri Megadim explains that it's somewhat, the Sheish Mitzvos Tmidiyos are somewhat of a refuge. Wherever a person may be in life, they, no matter what's vying for their attention, what's vying for their time, a person could always, so to speak, run to a haven of the Sheish Mitzvos Tmidiyos. So the Be'er Halacha brings as follows: Hu klal gadol b'Torah. This is the second Be'er Halacha. Haroitze l'kayim shivisi karoi. One who wants to fulfill shivisi properly. Yizdarez l'kayim asher nichtav b'shem Sefer HaChinuch. He should energize himself to fulfill that which is written in the Sefer HaChinuch. Because of how beloved they are. Many Gedolim have brought them in their Svarim. This, the Chavetz Chaim says, is the language of the Sefer HaChinuch, and the Chavetz Chaim says this is basically called from a number of places in the Sefer HaChinuch, in his Hakdama, in Siman Chav Hei, Chav Vav, Taf Yod Zayin, Taf Yod Ches, Taf Lamed Beis, Shin Pei Zayin. Now, just to get an idea, that the Chavetz Chaim is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. So this is explaining, when the Ramah says, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid, the Chavetz Chaim is being mazber, he's being mevayer. How is one mekayim? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid, the way to do it is by focusing on these 6 things. So, Sheish mitzvos chiyuvan tmidi. There are 6 mitzvos, their obligation is constant. Lo yipasku me'ala adam. They will not cease from a person, afilu rega echad kol yamav, even for one moment for his whole life. V'chol zman, at any time, v'chol rega, at any moment, sheyachshoiv bahem, that you think in them, kiyem mitzvah saseh, you fulfill a mitzvah saseh, ve'ein keitz lamatan schar ha-mitzvahs, there is no end to the reward for mitzvahs ve'elohim. These are them. Now, this doesn't mean one is obligated to think about them all day, but that means that any time a person is cognizant of them, they are mekayim, one of the mitzvahs of the Torah. They asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, what about uvoy sidbak? What about the mitzvah of clinging to Hashem? Why is that not one of the mitzvahs tmidiyos? So Reb Chaim basically said these mitzvahs are not things that you do, but rather they're state of mind that have to be sort of niskabel and accepted at all times. So in other words, wherever you may be, if we stop you, you have to be ascribed to the principle that there is one God, that there's no other God. But uvay sidbak, so to speak, is a madrega that, not that you actually do, but it's something that you're payel belibay, as opposed to these 6 that Reb Chaim said are state of mind or state of being. Okay, here they go. Number 1, to believe there's one God in the world, that brought all creation into being. From his desire and his will, who is whatever exists now, v'shahaya, and whatever was, v'sheyeh, and whatever will be, la'adayad, forever and ever. V'shehu haitzion mitzrayim. Part of belief in God is that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, v'nasan lanu ha'Torah. So this is actually includes many great principles. V'zehu mitzvah saseh. The mitzvah of believing in Hashem is a mitzvah saseh. D'chsiv anoichi Hashem leikecha asher hoitzei sicha. I am Hashem your God that I took you out. Uperushai, that means teidu. What do you mean, I am Hashem your God? Okay, nice to meet you, good to know. What's the Torah saying? I am Hashem your God who took you out of Mitzrayim. The chinuch says that means you should know, v'ta'aminu, you should believe, sheyesh ha'olam Eloika, that the world has a God, hamashgiach, that overlooks everything, shaharei hoitzei me'eretz Mitzrayim. So it's basically emuna in Mitzvos Hashem, emuna in hashgachas Hashem, and emuna in Torah min hashamayim. Which is interesting because the Sefer HaIkrim argues on the Rambam. The Rambam says there are 13 principles of faith. Rev Yosef Elbo says that there are only 3 principles of faith, and they are Mitzvos Hashem, Hashgacha Pratis, and Torah min hashamayim. And interestingly, the Sefer HaChinuch combines these 3 principles of the Ikrim into mitzvah number 1. So mitzvah number 1 is belief in Mitzvos Hashem, Hashgachas Hashem, Torah min hashamayim. Now you say, come on, I'm already a big lamdin. I learned Tosfos on Kodshim with Reb Chaim. This is, I don't need to do this. So I saw that they asked Reb Vosner about the Sheish Mitzvos Tamidios, and he said, Ta'aminu li chabivi, that miyoim omdi al dati, a day did not go by in my life that I was not mizboinin on the Sheish Mitzvos Tamidios, l'chol ha'pachos mea pa'amim. So even though we may be big lamdanim, there are still moments in the day that are free, and every moment you think about this, you're mekayim a mitzvah. I guess an interesting question would be, if you're mizboinein that there is a Ribono Shel Olam who's mashgiach and he gave us the Torah, according to the Sefer HaChinuch, that's only one mitzvah. According to the Ikrim, l'chayra, it's 3 separate mitzvahs. Maybe according to the Rambam, it would be 3 separate mitzvahs. Okay, number 2. Shaloi namin b'shum alei him zulasai, not to believe in any other God. Shenemar lo yeh lecha Elohim achir ma'alpanai. Okay, so not to believe in another God. Even if you believe God controls everything. But if you think He gave over the guidance of the world, to an angel, or to a star, one is acknowledging idolatry, and one violates the Slav. But one must believe that God Himself and in His honor, He oversees all the worlds, and no creation has any power, without His will. Therefore God is called the power of all powers. In other words, there's no secondary power either. Number 3, liyachdai, to unify Hashem. Shenemar, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Uperushai. That means, Shema Yisrael, Hertzachayin, Klal Yisrael. V'da, listen, accept. Shema means to listen. Shema means to understand. Shema means to accept. V'da, you should know, Ki Hashem shehiva es hakol, that God who brought everything into being, Bertzainai, according to His will, V'hu Elokeinu, He is our God, Hamashgiach b'chol ha'olamos, who overlooks all of the worlds. Hu Hashem Echad, He is Hashem Echad, b'li shum shituf, without any partner. Now, they asked Reb Chaim, what's the difference between number 2 and number 3? Number 2 is, don't believe in any other God. Number 3 is to unify Hashem. Okay, it sounds exactly the same. And Reb Chaim said, Nachon, it is exactly the same. One is a lav and one is an asay. Reb Chaim says there's no difference between Iker number 2, mitzvah number 2 of the Sefer HaChinuch, and mitzvah number 3. In the Sefer Das Noite, in the footnote, they bring that is not unanimously agreed upon. Some say, Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim is, don't believe in any other God. Okay, but maybe I don't believe in another God, but what if I say that Hashem delegated, and Hashem's the big boss, and He gave over things, some of the office work to some lower powers. So Liyachdai says no, Hashem is the only force, He's Echad Pashat. I would say the reason Reb Chaim didn't say like that is the Sefer HaChinuch doesn't say like that, because included in Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim, the way the Chafetz Chaim quotes it is clear that one does not accept any lower force, that Hashem did not delegate to any other koyach. But in these Svarim on the Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidiyos, most do not learn like Reb Chaim. But I think the way Reb Chaim learns is meduyak in the way the Mishnah quotes the Sefer Chinuch. Okay, number 4, Daled. Lehoiv hamakam baruch hu, to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemer, as the pasuk says, v'yahavta is Hashem aleikecha. V'keitzad yagia adam li'ava. How does a person come to love? Hu al yedei HaTorah. Is by learning Torah. Chedei b'sifri, like the Sifri Darshans. Shenemer v'yahavta. Eini yodea keitzad lehavas hamakam. I don't know how to love God. So how does one come to love Hashem? Talmud Loimar, v'hayu advarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. One comes to v'yahavta through v'hayu hadvarim, by learning Torah. Shemitoich kach, by learning Torah, atamakir es mishamar v'haya olam, one will recognize the Creator of the world. Keloimar, meaning to say, sha'idei ha'hisboinunus ba'Torah, contemplating the Torah, delving into the Torah, yakir es gedulasoi, shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you will recognize the greatness of Hashem Baruch Hu, she'ein loy erech v'loy kates. The greatness of Hashem has no evaluation and no end. The tisyashev ha'ahava belibai, the love will be situated in his heart, behechrach, perforce. It will happen automatically. Now, the Chavetz Chaim writes, I believe in the Sefer Shmeres Halashain, that since Avas Hashem is a mitzvah d'oraisa, one should not eat in the morning unless they know they could check off that they were mekayim the mitzvah of Avas Hashem, which the best time to do that, Berura says, is when you say the pasuk, v'yahavta is Hashem aleikecha. Otherwise, in a way, it's like being meyed edo sheker. You're saying the pasuk, you should love Hashem, but you're not fulfilling it lamaisa. But the Chavetz Chaim in the Shmiras Halashan says, if it is very difficult to fulfill that at the time you say v'yahavta, then l'chol ha'pachos, before you come home for breakfast, you should be misboinin at least rega echad to mekayim the mitzvah of Avas Hashem. As Rav Miller would always say, that once a day a person should say, I love you, Hashem. So but that's brought in by the Chavetz Chaim the Shmiras Halashain as well. Okay, then the Chavetz Chaim says, Indiana Mitzvah. What it really does it mean to love Hashem? Sheyira ha'adam lahasim kol megamas. A person should place all of his aspirations, v'chol machshavte, and all of his thoughts, achar avas Hashem yisbarach, after the love of God. Meaning, one should not have other loves that compete for the love of Hashem. V'yarach b'liboy, make the following evaluation. Ki koma sheyesh ba'olam, whatever there is in this world, me'oisher, from wealth, uvanim, and children, v'chavoid, and honor, hakol hu ke'ayin neged avos yisbarach. It's all negligible relative to the love of Hashem. In other words, that should be the predominant love in one's heart. V'yiga tamid, and therefore one should toil incessantly. V'bakashas chachmas haTorah, seeking out the wisdom of the Torah. Laman yasig yediyah b'Hashem, in order to know Hashem. We know in the Torah the language for relations, kirva, is always yediyah. The way one comes close to Hashem is by learning Torah and knowing Hashem. V'hakoiveya es machshavtoi b'inyanim hagashmiyim u'v'havli ha'olam, one who places undue emphasis on physical matters and trivialities of the world, shaloi l'shem shamayim, not for the sake of heaven, rak l'hisaneg, just for enjoyment, ulahasek kavod, or to achieve honor, bitel aseizu, their mevatel, this mitzvah, va'anshoy gadol, and their punishment will be very great. Now I'm trying to keep this balanced, about 12-13 minutes a day, but I would like to finish the Sheish Mitzvahs today. So we'll finish them today, and tomorrow will be a bit shorter. Okay, Mitzvah Hey. Mitzvah Hey. Liyos yiras Hashem yisbarach al panav tamid levilti yechta. That the fear of God should be on your face always, so that you don't sin. V'al zen emar, and about this mitzvah, the pasuk says, Es Hashem aleikecha tira. You should fear Hashem. Umisha ba dvar aver liyadeh. One who has the opportunity to sin. Chayiv. In other words, Chavetz Chaim saying it doesn't mean you should walk around all day in fear and dread, but it means that when you have the opportunity to sin, you need to summon your spirit, velasei salibai, and pay attention. Ba'oisai apark, at that moment, sha'akadosh baruch hu mashgiach b'chol masei b'nei adam, that God sees all of man's actions. That if I succumb, Rebbe Hashem is going to see, He's going to record it, and it's going to be played back on some big news outlet one day. As the pasuk says, Seif davar hakol nishma. So that is Yiras Shamayim. When a person has the opportunity to sin, he arouses the idea, he summons the idea Hashem is watching. Even if I'm acting in darkness and the door is closed and the lights are off. And v'yashiv lahem nakam lefi roya hamaisa. And God will pay back, commensurate with the evil of the deed. As the pasuk says, Im yisaser ish b'mistarim va'ani lo yarenu. No, Hashem, can a man hide in a hiding place and I shall not see him? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's the mitzvah of Yiras Shamayim. That any moment of the day that a person summons up the thought, I'm walking down the street, I'm going to walk with my eyes lowered. Why? Because Hashem is watching me. You're mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa of Yiras Shamayim. Number 6, shaloi nasor acharei machshavas halev uriyas hoinayim. Not to veer after the thoughts of your heart and the sights of your eyes. What does that mean? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'lo sasuru acharei levavchem. Do not stray after your heart. Va'amru chachamim. The rabbis tell us in Brachos Yud Beis, acharei levavchem zu api karsus. Do not be tempted. Do not be led astray by heretical thoughts, by thoughts that are in opposition to the Torah. Va'acharei einechem zu zenos. Uv'chlal apikarsis, including apikarsis, who call machshavos zaroi shehin hepech das Torah. All foreign notions, philosophies that are against das Torah, that is apikarsis. Uv'chlal znus, included in znus, humi shu roideif achar tavas ha'olam. One who pursues taiva, mebli sheichavin bahem klal lekavana taiva, without any good intent. Koloimar, meaning, what would a good intent be? In other words, the guy is not, so to speak, enjoying some extra gashmias so that he should be healthy or in a better mood to serve Hashem. He's just indulging. Why? Because he wants to live it up. He's just trying to amass pleasure. That is a violation of But I once saw from the Shari Arain that if somebody's walking down the street and they're tempted by in an immodest re'iyah and they overcome it, so then they're mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa of loisasuru. Now we know that at the time a person's mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa, it becomes an eis ratzain. That's why women light, at the time of Nero's Shabbos, they're mispalo for their children, because at the time of the performance of a mitzvah, it's an eis ratzain. That's why after Berchas Hamazon, the Chavetz Chaim says, we say harachaman, because you just mekayim mitzvah d'oraisa, so it's an eis ratzain, you could be mispalo. So a person could sort of attack the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara says, just look, no big deal, nobody's going to see. No, say Yetzer Hara, this is a very big moment in my life. I'm about hineni muchan u'mezuman lekayim, the mitzvah of lois asuru, and I'm going to daven, whatever you want to daven for, whatever your need, whatever your particular tzarech is. It's a very powerful eis ratzain. Says the Chavetz Chaim, kol zeh likatati milashoina yanechman b'ktsara. This I all gleaned and I gathered from the beautiful language of the Sefer Chinuch, and I gleaned it in short. It's like a elixir for the eye. Fortunate is one who fulfills these 6 mitzvahs properly. Okay, more of Rabbi Sai. We'll hold it here, but Hashem will finish the first daf tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.